In today's video, I'm going to give you all of the information you need to learn the front lever. So I'm going to break down all the progressions you need, and I'm going to show you at the end of the video how you can program these exercises to learn the front lever as fast as possible. So first things first, the prerequisite is pretty easy. I would suggest you just have a solid base of pulling strength. So just 10 pull-ups should be a solid foundation to actually start learning the front lever. If you can't do 10 pull-ups yet, work on the basics and mastering the basics. The stronger foundation and base that you have, the easier it is to actually learn the front lever. So the full front lever is pretty much a full body movement. You're pulling down with your straight arms, you're squeezing your abs, you're squeezing your glutes. You can point your toes to make it even cleaner, but it's just like your whole body is nice and tense. That's how you get that straight horizontal line. So the first progression is going to be pretty simple. It's just going to be called a tucked front lever. You're just going to go onto the bars, and then you just tuck into a nice little tight ball. You try and lean back a little bit while you're keeping your arms nice and straight. You just want to get really comfortable with this movement. I would suggest you can hold this tucked front lever for about 15 to 20 seconds before you move on. You don't really want to rush these progressions, especially the very beginning ones, because like I said with the pull-ups, you want to build that strong foundation to move on to harder progressions. So if you've seen any other calisthenic tutorials, they'll probably be like, okay, so go from tucked to advanced tuck, and then bada bing bada boom, they make it seem like it's super easy to just transition from a tucked to advanced tuck, which is not really the case, especially with other exercises like the planche. That gap between a tucked and an advanced tuck, it's the same with the front lever, it's a pretty wide gap. A good exercise I would suggest to transition from the tucked to the advanced tuck, some people call them swings, some people call them pumps. You're just gonna go from a tucked front lever, and then you try and extend your hips out a little bit, and he's trying to hold it at the advanced tuck position for as long as you can, and then instead of falling over, I would suggest you just go back into the tucked front lever and you just keep pumping those out because you're trying to build a bit more volume. You'll get that sense of like increasing of difficulty as you extend those legs away from your body. Once you can do, I would say like 8 to 12 reps, you should be able to try and hold it at that advanced tucked front lever position, and you can start holding that for time, because that is the next progression. So the next progression after that is going to be the advanced tucked front lever, and this is my favorite exercise, and the one that is probably the best progression for learning the front lever. Is the one progression that all other progressions after this are based upon. So you got to have a very solid advanced tucked hold. You should be able to hold it for at least 15 seconds, nice and comfortably, build up that time. The longer and stronger you're at in this position, the easier it is to transition to the other progressions. So you really want to make sure you're taking your time to learn and solidify this progression and get really strong at it. So now, once you can hold that advanced tuck front lever hold for at least 15 to 20 seconds, you're gonna start learning how to do advanced tuck front lever raises, which is pretty much you're in that advanced tuck front lever hold while maintaining straight arms. You drive those hips towards the bar and meet your hands to your hips, you know, kind of like hump the air. You're pretty much humping the bar, and you're trying to do that, and then you come back down into that nice flat advanced tuck front lever hold. At the very start, these are going to feel super difficult. It's going to be pretty tough. Your body adapts to this movement pretty easily as long as you can do it quite often. I would recommend at least 8 to 10 reps before you move on to the next exercise. If you're having trouble to increase the reps, what I would suggest is you focus on the negatives. So shoot your hips up and go down as slow as possible. Try not to drop your hips at the bottom part. As soon as that happens, that's when you should rest, because that's when the form is breaking down and it's not really worth your time to train. So make sure when you're training, you want to keep that perfect form, squeeze those abs, and pull down with your arms nice and straight. So now that we've got some straight arm strength with the raises, you're gonna start doing rows, which are an exercise that I do still to this day. It's one of the only really horizontal pulling exercises that are really beneficial in calisthenics. Getting really strong at these will directly correlate to getting a strong front lever. I believe that is the one exercise that I pretty much did all the time, almost every single day. I got really strong at these. So pretty much with this, you're gonna go into that advanced tuck front lever hold, and then you just use all of your strength to pull your hands to your waist. I would recommend you mix the rows with the raises to get really strong at straight arms and bent arms. That will get you super strong pulling strength. And just like with the raises, the form is very important, because it's very easy to like get high reps if your hips are dropping. Much more beneficial to have like 2 or 3 solid reps than it is to like rep out with your hips really low and just rep out like 10. Like, that's not gonna do you any good. So you should be really spending a lot of time in that advanced tuck front lever hold and doing those raises and those pull-ups and building that super strong strength. The next progression, which a lot of people usually skip, but I didn't skip. I find it really beneficial. They usually go from advanced hold to try and do the straddle, which is a super big gap. I don't really recommend doing that. So the next one I would suggest is going to be the single leg advanced tuck front lever hold. This one's tricky because you see a lot of people not doing this really properly. That's why a lot of people skip it. So what they'll do, as they're extending one leg, the other leg that's bent goes into a tucked position, like a tucked front lever position. Not really what you want. So what you're trying to do is keep the bent leg in the advanced tucked front lever hold position, and then you're straightening out the other one. So I wasn't sure which spot to put this in. This could be like before the single leg, or I put it like right after, but they're probably on the exact same level. And this is going to be like the frog hold. So you're going to go from the advanced tuck. Like I said, you really want to get good at the advanced tucked front lever hold because this is what everything's building off of. So what you're going to do is opening up your legs and extending your hips. You're not bending your back at all. People usually skip the other one to do this one, which you could do, but I would recommend you do both. And yeah, just getting a mixture of both is really beneficial. But yeah, there's not much to this hold. You're just slowly extending your hips away from each other and bringing them down. So this is where I would start recommending you do negatives of the straddle front lever. Every ounce of strength that you have to try and go down as slow as possible and try and hold at the bottom. At the very start, you're obviously not going to be able to hold it at the bottom, but you're gonna go down, jump back up, hold, go back down as slow as possible, and you can rep these out. They're gonna take a lot out of you. The reps that you're gonna be able to do is pretty low, but these are super good at building that strength towards that front lever. And with the negatives, I would also recommend you start adding resistance bands to your training. I wouldn't suggest you start adding resistance bands until you can at least do like a solid single leg hold or really good at those frog holds, because if you add the resistance bands too early, you're not really building the strength that you need, and you're gonna have to use so much assistance that there's no point of really using the resistance bands that early. So just build that strength with just your body weight, and then once you get to this point, that's when you start adding it. A couple ways that you can use them, the way that I do it, is kind of step into the resistance bands and put one side behind you, like below your buttocks, tie it over top, and then step into it with your legs, and then you go into the front lever. This is one way to do it, and another way that people do it is they just resistance band together and then put it behind you and then just put it over top onto the bar. Either way pretty much works. I wouldn't say one does more assistance than the other, just which one you feel more comfortable with. Just pick that one and stay consistent with it. So the next progression after you're doing some negative straddle front lever holds is obviously learning the straddle front lever. I actually found the straddle a lot harder than the full. So as you're working on that frog hold, you're gonna start extending your legs out more and more, and you're working on those negatives and the resistance band front levers, and you're just gonna get that straddle pretty quickly if you're doing those exercises, as well as those rows of the advanced tuck front lever rows. Those are freaking insane. So if you can hold the straddle front lever for around 5+ seconds, that's when you're really pretty much there. What you're gonna start doing once you can hold that straddle is you can start implementing like full front lever negatives. And what you can also do is, as you're holding that straddle front lever, you start moving your legs closer and closer, so it's less of a straddle and you're making it more of a full front lever. And that's something that will happen gradually as you get stronger. So with that, you're just gonna add full front lever negatives, and then with the straddle, you're gonna bring your legs closer together. Just like that, you have the full front lever. And once you can do a front lever for a few seconds, you don't just want to be practicing full front lever holds. That's quite taxing to do, and you're not going to get a lot of volume. So what you want to start doing once you can do the full front lever, to keep doing the straddle front lever holds, keep doing front lever negatives, and keep doing assisted front levers, doing those 3 exercises, and it will be a lot less taxing on your body than to do just constantly doing full front lever holds, because it's just too much. So now that I've shown you all the progressions, I'm just going to show you a few exercises outside of the progressions that will help you learn that front lever. So the first one is probably something that you've heard a lot if you've watched any other front lever tutorials, and it's going to be weighted pull-ups. This is a no-brainer, even if you're not learning the front lever. And that's a big reason why when you see like bodybuilders who've never trained calisthenics, most of them could probably do a front lever just because their pulling strength is so high. Their form is going to be pretty bad because they've never done it. Just being really strong at pulling is easily transferred into the full front lever. The next exercise I'm not going to touch on for too long, but it's just the advanced tuck front lever rows. I already told you why these are so important, but just doing this exercise on top of weighted pull-ups, that's how you really increase that vertical pulling with the weighted pull-ups and your horizontal pulling. Next exercise that can be pretty useful to learning the front lever is just doing dragon flags. The movement is very similar to a front lever, which is why a lot of people train the dragon flag when they're learning the front lever. I just find that training the dragon flags, it puts a lot of pressure on your elbows and your triceps. When finding them pain-free, I mean, you could probably start doing them and it'll give you good benefits with the front lever because the two exercises are pretty similar. So another thing that could be very beneficial to you when learning the front lever is the false grip. It is a lot easier on the dip bars because you can really set up pretty easily. Pretty much what a false grip is instead of gripping the bar like normally with like your fingers, twist your wrist over top. Your wrist is pretty much on top of the bar itself, and then you go into your front lever progressions. You can learn the front lever with a false grip using chalk, which I also recommend doing, is to put it over your hands and then also underneath your wrist on the same side as your pinky. That's where your wrist is going to be laying, so you feel a lot of tension there when doing the false grip. So you also want to make sure you're chalking up that little area when using the false grip. So like I said at the start of the video, I'm going to show you how I implemented front lever training into my workouts. When I first started, what I would do is my training split was push-pull legs, and then on my pull days, at the start of my workout, I would do the hardest progression of the front lever for only 3 sets. If you do any more, like 2 to 3 sets is pretty good. You don't want to exert yourself too much because the next exercise that I would recommend you do, a really heavy compound movement like weighted pull-ups. That's the one I've been doing. You don't want to exert yourself too much at the start is because the weighted pull-ups actually does a lot more for you than spending your time on too many progressions. So you want to do your progressions when you're fresh, but I would say don't spend more than 2 to 3 sets doing the max hold. So if you're on like an advanced tuck hold, do like 3 sets of max holds of the advanced tuck front lever holds, and then after that do something more challenging of a strength exercise like weighted pull-ups or archer pull-ups or like explosive pull-ups, just something that will actually increase your pulling strength. So after the weighted pull-ups, I would do an easier progression. So it really depends on what level you are right now, but you would pick a progression that's easier than the first exercise that you did. So if you're doing advanced tucked front lever holds, after the weighted pull-ups, you might just want to do tucked front lever holds. And if you're at like a single leg front lever, you might want to do that at the start of the workout. And then after the weighted pull-ups, you just want to do like advanced tucked front lever like raises or pull-ups or just holds. You just want to mix in a little bit of an easier progression as you are a lot more tired now at the point because you just finished a very heavy compound exercise. At this point, this is where you want to start assisted front lever stuff. So you're going to be pretty fatigued and there's not going to be too much you can do that's going to be beneficial. So that's where you get like resistance bands and then do a couple sets of max holds or raises, and that way you get a lot of volume and you can keep good form because that's what resistance bands are for. That's pretty much how I would program these progressions into my workouts. So recap, at the start you do a max hold for a few sets. Do not try and tire yourself out at the start of your workout because you want to save a lot of your energy for a heavy compound pulling exercise, which I recommend is weighted pull-ups because that will be very easily transferred into the front lever. And then after you're doing the pull-ups, you're going to go to an easier progression, whether that's raises or rows or just the holds of an easier progression compared to the first exercise, and then you're going to go to assisted, and that's how I would implement it into my workout. And if you stay consistent with this, that's how you see those gains video, and so thank you so much for watching. Let me know if there's any other tutorials on calisthenics exercises you want, and I'll be sure to make a video about that. So thank you so much for watching, and peace out.